The bad news is KU still needs to find 3 spots at this stage of the offseason. We're into the second week of June, and Kansas still has 3 spots. Even you could make an argument that they could be still looking for a potential starting spot at the wing position. At the very least, you need another body in that area. We had a chance to hear from some of the new players for Kansas. KU did a little bit of thing along with Jacques Vaughn. You can check out what Jacques Vaughn and Bill Self had to say last week over on a YouTube channel at Kansas Jocks KCSN, but also had a chance to hear from the new players as well. So got a chance to talk to Darren Peterson a little bit, Melvin Council. KU has started doing some camp. If you follow Kansas on social media, you've maybe seen some tweets and some video clips of KU basketball players doing things. So that's pretty cool. But still looking for 3 potential spots at this stage. And the biggest issue is that it appears as though Kansas will not be having its cake and eating it too. And that is in reference to one Bryce Desert, the French big man. No bon appetit for us, unfortunately, as he was seemingly somebody that KU was pretty far along in the recruiting process with. And it seems as though with these international players, you have different issues that can arise with that type of stuff, with
student visas and
all kinds of stuff. So for one reason or another, without speculating too much, it sounds like maybe that might have fallen through a little bit. He's 22 years old, so maybe there was some eligibility issues. It's really hard to say exactly what maybe the roadblock was, but that has maybe kind of fallen through a little bit. So that would have been a piece you would have liked to have as a big man. And then earlier in the day on Monday, Patrick Sumnick, who had visited Kansas about almost a month ago now, committed to Seton Hall. So another name you can cross off the list. So from a big man perspective, it's already looking pretty thin. Obviously, from the wing perspective, it's looking pretty thin. I'm not really sure where Kansas goes at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, Desert would have been perfect because he was a high energy big man, right? And that's kind of what you want behind Flory for the 10 to 15 minutes that he's not in the game. Is you want somebody that's going to come in, play like their hair is on fire, rebound, defend, and bring some of those things. They don't have to be perfect, but if they have a high motor, and in that case, you're talking about a guy whose motor, the things that he can do at 7 feet tall, made him sort of a fringe NBA guy. And so having that guy as your backup obviously would have been perfect. I don't know. Is it done yet that it's no? Last I saw Nick, it was trending sort of in hey, this may not be as likely, but it's still possible type of deal. But
yeah, I mean, without getting into the weeds so much on what the various issues may be with players like that, right? It's one of those situations where you just wait until it happens or it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
But you never know what kind of roadblocks there may be, or paperwork, or holdups, or XYZ, especially at this stage of the process, right? Maybe if it was a little bit earlier, it would be okay, but it's kind of hard to tell at this point, truly.
Yeah, and now with the revenue sharing part signed off on, where all of your NIL stuff needs to go through a clearinghouse, there's no longer just, hey, we're going to write you a check for $3 million to come play for us. That's kind of out the window, or at least, and I know we're going to get into this aspect of it, at least on the surface, people aren't going to be writing those checks. It could be a little bit of a return to, money in a McDonald's bag for certain people, type of deal. But in this specific case, yeah, I mean, you're 100% on. Like the options are looking pretty dried up at this point. That doesn't mean that there's nobody. It doesn't mean there's not going to be a reclassification. It doesn't mean the perfect international guy is not going to fall into your lap. I feel like we mention this every show. You got a break for probably 1 week with Derek here, but Johnny Furphy was an August guy, that they added. And so it's not looking great right now. I think the one positive thing that you would say, though, Nick, is, and I'm not saying this is everything, but it does seem like the reviews on the guys who are currently here, how they feel about each other, how they're getting along, what people are saying about them, is really positive at this point, whether it's Melvin Council, whether it's people talking about, hey, Darren Peterson is as advertised. It does seem like that aspect of it is going about as well as you would hope for.
Well, and I think that's always been the underlying theme of this offseason is that we've talked about it. I think in a vacuum, you look at what KU got in the transfer portal and you'd say, hey, you went out and got some really, really solid players that are going to fit into the KU culture really well.
Yep.
Like Melvin Council is a perfect example. Jaden Dawson is a perfect example. And hearing from those guys and them saying, yeah, I got the call from Bill Self and I was immediately bought in. I was all in, right? Like you hear those guys say that and you think, okay, you've gotten players that are the right fit, right? And I think that's been overshadowed by the fact that you've swung on some bigger names and missed, and you're sitting here in the second week of June and you feel like you still don't have a fully completed roster yet. But when you look at what KU already added, yeah, it's very impressive, I think, and I feel really confident in the players that KU has. When you talk about Council and Dawson and Trey White, and then you throw in a Floyd Badunga, who you said was maybe KU's biggest quote unquote get out of the transfer portal, plus Darren Peterson, like absolutely, I think Kansas has done a really good job, and truly, Kevin, Kansas kind of did exactly what we were asking them to do, which is don't worry about going out and getting like the best guy or the highest rated guys. Just go find players that are going to fit in. And I think they did that. They definitely did that with the players they have. The problem is they were set up into which they needed more, and they haven't maybe hit on a bigger name that would fit in as well that they had the chance to. And listen, anytime you have multiple really high-end prospects, I mean, you're talking about Dame Sarr, who was ranked as a 5-star, and then you talk about Darian Williams, who was consensus one of the top players in the transfer portal. When you miss out on those two guys, yeah, it kind of puts a damper on things. But overall, you have to be pleased with what KU has done, I think, in the transfer portal. Just maybe not quite enough considering the circumstances.
Yeah, you brought up the social media clips that are starting to kind of surface, from them practicing and working out together. I get that they're quick clips. It's, hey, here's 10 seconds of this or 15 seconds of this. But just seeing the way they interact with each other, Nick, does it not seem like this has a chance to be a really close-knit group? I mean, I believe the kids would say, not being a kid myself, you're a lot closer to that. I believe the kids would say vibes are high at this point.
You got that correct. Shockingly, old head Kevin got that correct. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think we talked about it during the season last year. There were plenty of games where it just didn't look like last year's team was having fun. It didn't look like they were enjoying being on the floor together, right? For various reasons. And obviously losing contributes to that. When you're losing, you're having a lot less fun, which Kansas is used to winning, certainly. But yes, I think your point still stands that it feels as though this team has a chance to maybe have a little bit better of a mentality. And I think that goes back to the players they brought in. I mean, with the dog food stuff, with Melvin Council, him, bringing that in, and Jaden Dawson talking about how committed he is. And obviously Darren Peterson is going to be a guy who will be an alpha player both on and off the floor. So absolutely, I think you look at what KU has in place and you feel pretty good about it. You're just maybe still missing an extra piece or two. And at this point, it's kind of hard to see where you go. I mean, international continues to be seemingly the at this point, not only is it the best route, maybe the only route, truly.
Yeah.
Considering the circumstances.